Story 1. Fed here in the DC area. Group chat for the team went like this. Hope everyone isn't too tired from staying up last night. And that was the extent of the election we discussed. Story 2. Fed here, though not in Washington, D.C., and have no desire to ever go. We are generally politically agnostic. Among those who do have a feeling either way, it is more or less an even mix and nobody discusses it. We have had the Hatch Act and general policy directives regarding professional decorum so thoroughly ingrained in us, we just do not talk about it. I have worked under President George W. Bush, President Barack Obama, President Donald Trump, and President Joe Biden. Other than various tweaks to the mission because of whatever is the in thing for the current administration, the machine just hums along. Things get scarier higher up, especially for appointees, but for the faceless rank and file, it is just another day. As a blanket response to most of the questions here, there is not much I can do about it. All I can do is continue on to the logical conclusion, whatever that may be, and maybe start an OnlyFans. Most of the threats are aimed at policymaking positions, basically the decision makers. So for example, in the Department of Justice, it would be the person who decides what to investigate, not who investigates it. If my bosses tell me to drop something, then I either drop it or get disciplined or removed. I voluntarily stepped down from a quasi-management position a few months back because I saw how the gears turn and did not like it. Back to being a regular worker bee, and it is fantastic. The fact remains, though, that someone in the right position could decide my agency is a problem, eliminate it, and I end up in a van down by the river. Regardless, I have no control over it, so all I can do is the right thing and see where it leads. Story 3. Obligatory not me, but I have some friends who work for the federal government in my state and one in Washington, D.C. Nobody talks politics. Even the lower levels, like janitors and staff, it's sort of taboo to bring anything like that up. I knew someone who had something like "God bless America" in their email signature, and supervisors immediately told her to cut it out. It's a pretty ordinary day from what I'm told. Story 4. We are generally very good about not discussing politics in the workplace, but the vibe was obviously off. My more conservative colleagues, who were happy Trump won, were extremely respectful. There wasn't smug gloating, and they were very evidently being aware of others' feelings even more than normal. It was much appreciated. Ultimately, we survived the first administration and will survive again. It's not necessarily Trump who was the problem last time, but his inexperienced senior appointees. The world isn't going to end, nor do I feel democracy will crumble at his feet. It's just going to be chaotic, and that's the worst part as a worker bee. At least with Biden, we had consistent leadership and clear guidance, even if you didn't agree with it. Under Trump, your yes man says no, and that's how you rotate through 4 secretaries of defense. But as a sign of hope, it also means that even the most loyal do say no sometimes, especially when businessmen are finally confronted with the realities of governance. They chill out real quick on their dismantlement plans when they see the work these agencies do and what's at stake if they don't stand up for their people. It's easy to say you will dissolve or cut funding for something when you do not truly understand it. And as much as people say we can all be magically replaced with yes men, even the most stone-hearted appointees recognize that the last thing you ever want is to lose the entirety of your skilled workforce. They learn it's best to get the skilled people to work towards their vision and not hire enthusiastic but unqualified people to attempt the same. If they do, they risk looking inept themselves. You don't get skilled federal workers in a blue portion of the country to work for you by being a tyrant. We're cranky and will make your life hell if you behave like that. I'm not talking about some sort of organized resistance movement because we feel like it. That's wrong. But just imagine hundreds of thousands being upset with you. If that's the deep state at work, then we aspire to be the quality of swampy deep state your racist uncle thinks we are. If implementing dictatorship were that easy, Trump would have taken out every agency his last term and fired us all. I am actually extremely proud of the resilience and checks and balances that the American federal government has in place to prevent most of the things he says he can achieve by waving a magic executive wand. He's done this once. He knows he can't. He just lets the majority of the population believe he can. We federal employees will make it, as we always have, and we will live up to our oath to serve the Constitution, not a president. We serve every official of every party faithfully within the bounds of legalities and our oath. Working for administrations you may not like is just a part of the job that we all recognize. Public servants at the federal level generally hold that extremely close to their heart. The ones that don't put us to shame. We're just tired, man. I can't believe it has already been 4 years since the last round. There are going to be some waves, no doubt, and some people definitely are going to be hurt at upper levels. But grab a drink and buckle up. We'll at least pretend it's meant to be a roller coaster and ride it. Democracy is not going to die, but a thanks would go a long way. I woke up this morning and am surprised by how much traction this got. I'm sad that this was the most positive thing some people had read. I'm sorry it's been that bad. I am not predicting outcomes. I have no idea how it's going to go. It's going to be bloody. But the hope I am trying to get across is that we are a resilient people and a group of generally good people. It will be okay. Okay? The people that really make or break your daily life are those around you and your local government. Hold those around you close to your heart and always be kind. Everybody go outside, take a deep breath, eat something you love, and hug your grandma, even if she voted differently. The world is still turning and the sky is still blue. Being surrounded by spiraling anger on the internet only makes us the losers, not those we disagree with. The only thing we can do right now is wait. We have a few months to cool off. Enjoy your holidays. I think everybody has forgotten about this, but check out the memorandum signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the end of Trump's first term after January 6th. The federal employees basically said no when people were scared that the government was going to turn the military on them to help Trump in some way. While it was specifically addressed to our armed forces members, it was spread throughout the Department of Defense and beyond, partially as a result of federal workers' concern that they would be asked to turn on citizens. This sentiment was echoed across the entire government via internal emails from Trump appointees as well to the civilian workforce. That's one of my proudest moments as an American and why I know we will get through it. Story 5. So far, it is normal business. There is tension, but it is mostly because government workers at all levels are working for the people of the country. They care about others and want to make the world a better place. They also get abused by private sector citizens for all kinds of things that are way beyond their control. Their job is a thankless job 99% of the time. At the end of the day, when a new administration comes in, really only the executives get replaced. Everyone from them on down still function as normal because the departments employ so many people and they perform so many functions, dissolving them is beyond unreasonable. They can try, but they will fail. It has been proven time and time again that when you try to privatize a government function, the private companies mess it up every single time. There are millions upon millions of dollars in wasted contracts where the government tried to outsource an application or function and the contractors could not deliver a finished product. They always go past their deadlines, cannot get it to work, and I have yet to see an application delivered complete as promised. I have worked in government nearly my entire professional life. It may be different in other areas, but yes, privatizing any of these functions is going to backfire so fast, and the epic failure that follows is going to be significant. Anyway, tomorrow is Thursday, and I have bills to pay. Story 6. From a cousin whose career is in Washington, D.C. The city, which voted 93% for Harris, is in a state of shock, a daze. I am with the Department of the Interior on the West Coast. I work with water quality, and I have some concerns. The shock for me was not that he won, but that he won the popular vote. Story 7. In Washington, D.C., my circle is mostly people who work in non-proliferation, national security, counterterrorism, intelligence, sanctions, and cyber. Generally, we all feel pretty glum and anxious. We're young, between 25 and 28, in my closest circle and are starting our careers here. We feel like all of the hard work will largely be ignored, go unnoticed, or be called fake news or part of some conspiracy. There will be a mass exodus of competence when Schedule F gets expanded. I feel terrible for folks at the Government Accountability Office who might get Elon as a boss. But also, we know the issue areas we work in are about to get 10 times worse. We went into our fields to keep America safe and out of conflict, but with the mentioned restructuring Trump wants to do, I can't imagine anything functioning how it's supposed to. Story 8. Not in Washington, D.C., but work for the Department of the Interior in environmental conservation. I'm technically a contractor, not a federal employee, but work in a federal office. My position is funded by the federal government. My coworkers are all federal employees, and I follow all the same rules as the federal employees. The vibe is pretty bleak at my office, even though we can't really talk about the election and our feelings on it that much. Last time Trump was in office, he rolled back a lot of environmental protections and cut funding, which is bad for obvious reasons. The federal employees with permanent positions are probably fine in terms of job security, but based on how things went during his last term, I genuinely don't think I'll have a job in a year to a year and a half due to a probable lack of funding, especially if I run out of my current funding when my contract is up for renewal, if not earlier. The whole thing definitely sucks. Story 9. I am worried about the future of health and human services. People interested in shifting the health preparedness and response, research, and regulation agencies away from actual science may look at the thousands of Doctor of Philosophy and Master of Public Health professionals currently staffing those agencies and find it easier to just shutter them rather than doing mass layoffs and restaffing. I really do not want to lose my job because my agency evaporated. Story 10. It depends on what your job is. I've seen a lot of comments here saying business as usual, but in fields Donald Trump hates, such as immigration and climate or environment, for example, there are a lot of people who are going to lose their jobs. And there are projects people have been working on for months or years that won't be finished in time before Donald Trump takes over. Story 11. My coworkers are clearly upset and depressed. Our agency is one of those that will be eliminated under Project 2025. I was in meetings today where people had to log off because they were starting to cry. Everyone is scared and not sure if they should be updating their resumes and applying to new jobs or hoping we somehow get lucky and fly under the radar. I love my job. I love my coworkers. This has been my dream job for over 21 years now, and I might lose it because of other people's choices. Story 12. I'm a federal employee, but not in Washington, D.C. I was teleworking today. I texted with some of my work friends, and we're all upset about it. We all worked during the last Trump administration, and it was difficult. As some other people have said, we can't really talk politics at work due to the Hatch Act. So my Microsoft Teams meetings carried on as if nothing happened. Typically, there will be conversations in hushed tones around the office, but nothing open. We've all taken an oath to the Constitution and intend to follow it. We're there to serve the American people, and most of us are passionate about what we do. It's disheartening when the president works against you in that. Story 13. A little solemn. Personally worried about the Republican Party's strong push for getting workers back in the office instead of teleworking. I have a daughter who is receiving in-home hospice care, and I worry about something happening to her while I'm in the office for no reason other than poor politics. There's also the idea of Elon Musk coming in and treating the government like he just bought Twitter. Less of a fear of mine, but it is discouraging when the country just voted for the party that put a target on you personally. Story 14. When I was in office in 2016 in Washington, D.C., the day after the election, there were so many people who called out. Lots of somber faces on the metro. I'm mostly remote now, so I couldn't see any reactions, but I was told by one of my in-office contacts that a lot of somber faces were seen again. Story 15. The vibe is in shambles. It went from an air of anxiety over the entire city of Washington last week to an almost silent panic. Nobody knows what to say. I was shocked by how few conversations I had about it today. Story 16. I live in Washington, D.C., and most of my neighbors work for the federal government. The atmosphere is sad, but most people aren't really talking about it except for little references to feeling down. Last time wasn't bad for a lot of career employees. There were plenty of cases where political appointees were normal Republicans. There were also plenty of cases where political appointees were Make America Great Again supporters but were just resume building and let the career employees do their jobs without interference. That certainly wasn't the case everywhere. There were some very engaged Make America Great Again appointees. But still, this time around, there's a little more trepidation that Trump has found his people, and all the political appointees are going to be both Make America Great Again supporters and highly engaged. Story 17. Felt like a funeral. Normally, it wouldn't change much. We will all still do our jobs because, contrary to what the public thinks, lowly federal employees just want to do their jobs and go home. We don't have political agendas. We follow the orders of the administration, regardless of who it is. I've dealt with several administration changes. We all show up and do our job. However, this time, a president we all served once before is out to get us and is committed to slashing whole agencies, and we all get to worry if we will have a job next year. We are all of a sudden an enemy. That's not normal. I just want to do my job.